When considering all the great work the Beatles did over their career, Till There Was You is not a song that normally first comes to mind, but it's a song that was a big turning point for the band a couple times. First, Brian Epstein chose the song for the Decca auditions, and then, after failing the Decca auditions, that tape was brought to George Martin, and it was Till There Was You that he heard when he noticed that Paul McCartney had potential as a lead singer, and George Harrison's guitar playing abilities. In this video, I'm going to show you how to play the lead guitar parts for George Harrison and for John Lennon. But first, let's take a look at how George Harrison's guitar part progresses from 1962 to 1964.
There were bells on a hill, but
And I shouldn't wonder there's one or two little darlings wouldn't mind holding Paul's hand either. Here he is with Till There Was You.
there were bells. There were bells on a hill. There were bells. Till It Was You.
On the Decca audition, you can hear George playing the chords in more of a strummed pattern and less single notes. The Star Club recordings are the next time we hear Till There Was You, and it's later 1962, and already we start to hear the licks that George does similarly to what he does on the album, with this progressing down the F chord. He does it just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he goes on, and he does a lot of really cool things in the Star Club. I really enjoy that performance. The studio version is the simplest of all of them, and it just walks down each chord like this. And then there's a hiccup on this. The Ed Sullivan performance is what we went with for our last video, and it includes these clever hiccups where they switch the rhythms that they fall on. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then immediately following the Ed Sullivan performance, a day or two later at the Washington Coliseum, is already when George is trying out a new lick. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's doing this diminished thing with the double stop plucking pattern. This new way of playing the intro sticks around for the rest of the duration that the Beatles are playing Till There Was You. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last performance of Till There Was You that I know of is the June 17th, 1964 one, and he again uses this new riff in a little bit different of a way. He plucks it downward, I think, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then moving on to the verse. coming out of that C9 chord, you have this riff that's played in a variety of different rhythms, but for now I'll stick with the eighth notes. And the way I do it is middle finger, then pinky again to set you up to play this F chord. And I find that to be the most comfortable. Then you have the F sharp diminished with that triplet rhythm. In the second verse, it goes to an eighth note rhythm. Like that. First verse, he runs up the B flat minor 7, just like that. Bum 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 bum. Some more seventh chords. And then you have that riff that starts there on beat 3. So it's 1, 2. And then another walk up into another verse. So you can practice all that as one phrase. There's a different rhythm there. That's what I hear George playing. For the second verse. Then that riff's the same, and then it walks into the F9 chord. The first bridge, George plays this double stop pattern on the B flat major, then B flat minor. Then moving that same idea to the F chord, placing it on a different rhythm. So it's like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then rolling up a D9 chord. Then this G minor 7th descending pattern, dropping the 7th. And when we get to this G minor 7, it actually switches to major. Adding a new rhythm. And then doing that riff where you're playing a C regular to a C9. Skipping the D string and not playing this suspended note. Otherwise you'd get that, and that would be the correct way to play a C9. And then playing that augmented chord. The augmented chord during the second time the bridge happens, he does a pattern like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when it comes back to a third verse, there's 3 different ways you could play this. That'd be the With the Beatles version, with no hammer on. Just played straight. And then a lot of the BBC versions and Royal Variety, you have this. And then there's an early BBC version where you have this, which is just like an octave thing. Reminiscent to like the Please Please Me and From Me to You style of playing. Then slide up there just like the other verse, and then he starts the solo. There's a few different ways he starts it. It's either the eighth notes, the quarter notes, or a triplet quarter notes, like this. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2. Or 1, 2, 3. The With the Beatles version is the straightest. It's just all eighth notes, no fancy rhythms. A 1, 2, 3. The Royal Variety version is one of the busier versions. The Star Club being the busiest version. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'll go over the Royal Variety version because that's one people like a lot. 1, 2, 3. also wanted to show you the Decca version, where there's an extra guitar solo. You don't often get to hear people play the second guitar solo, so I thought I'd show you here. 1, 2, 3. And George is using his vibrola bar as well right there. Some interesting parts about it is this chord right here. That's all really nice. And then this chord is the same as the final versions. And then you have an F9 to just an F7. And then coming out on the solo, that's the new stuff you have there. You've got this rhythm, and then a B flat minor, 7, so like this, and then an F over A, with a little bit different of a rhythm there, to a D, adding the 2, which is the note that McCartney is singing. Then back to the G, descending 7s, and then the part I was showing you earlier. Then after that you have another verse, and then that's where that riff starts on beat 4, so it's 1, 2, 3. That's rest, strum, strum, rest, strum, strum, down, up. And George moves to the center of the neck to get a bassier tone, less of the pick scraping and high treble sounds. Then to this final riff, back strumming over here, to this F chord with the root up here, to a 6, to a C sharp major, adding the 2 again, then to an F major 7, played like this, adding the pinky on the E note. So it's like this. It's a fun ending though. Once you can nail it, you feel good about it, and then you get to bow right after that. Then moving on to the John part. John's part more or less stayed the same throughout the years, but I'll go over what he did. Starting off with the F, he's got this rhythm. You gotta be consistent with all those notes and have them all ring out equally in volume, and get that shuffle to be right on beat with the You can also play this diminished chord like this. There's a pause there. Lift up and mute. Then after the bridge, we have another verse where John plays the same strumming pattern as the first 2 verses. He doesn't change his pattern until we get to the solo, where he plays this. he gets a muted sound by lifting up his fingers off the strings with his left hand. And you could do some muting with your right hand as well. And then right about there is where John plays the strumming pattern from the verse. He switches back. And some recordings he plays the C9, and some recordings I think he's playing the F sharp 7 sharp 9 along with George. Could have been a George Martin suggestion. It sounds like Paul changes his part from a C to an F sharp as well. End it. Let me know if you have